Hello, my beautiful bookish friends. Welcome back to my channel. Today we are going to be talking about all things spring. So I don't know about you, but I'm one of those people that gets so ready for the next season before it's even here. So in February, I was already ready for winter to wrap up and for spring to come around. I have been having a blast putting together a spring TBR and also spring recommendations for you guys. So basically what I'm going to be doing today is going through books that I've read and recommend for you and books that are on my spring TBR for this year. So for every book that I recommend, I'm going to have a book that I want to read. These aren't really connected in any way or shape, but they just give off the same kind of spring vibes that I'm looking for this year. So we're going to go ahead and jump in and get started. Okay, don't judge me. But for two of these, we only have the dust jackets. I'm really bad about removing dust jackets from books and then not putting them back on. So I just have like a stack of dust jackets in my TBR cart, and the books are just on my shelf or somewhere around the house. So this is one that I've read and highly recommend for the spring, and that is Belladonna by Adalyn Grace. This is part of a series. I don't know if it has like an actual name of the series, but the first one is Belladonna, the second one is Foxglove, and the third one that will be coming out this year is called Wisteria. This was just so atmospheric. This one is definitely a darker fantasy, and it does have a lot of darker elements. Like there's a character named Death, there are these like poisonous, you know, obviously Belladonna is a poison. There are gothic elements in this with the romance and the fairy tale-esque kind of vibes that you get from this. The atmosphere that Adalyn Grace paints with the setting in this book reminds me so much of The Secret Garden that it's ridiculous. It's like a very dark secret garden, but make it fantasy as well. Signa is our main character, and she has some kind of curse put on her to where most of the people that are close to her or around her end up dead. But a lot of people want something to do with her because she has come from a very wealthy family. So she finds out that she has some relatives, and she has been recently orphaned. She is 19 years old, so she is above like the legal age limit of like, you know, 18 and you can become an adult. But obviously at 19, if you're not expecting your parents to die or your guardians or whatever, it's obviously a shock and you're not really prepared. So she decides to go stay at their manor or estate, and of course when she gets there, everything is not as it seems. So the man of the manor, who is supposed to be, I think, her uncle, I don't really know. I really don't remember who he is to her exactly. But basically she comes to the manor, and the husband has lost his wife, and he is just throwing these parties to kind of hide his grief and sorrow. He also has a daughter, a young daughter, who is deathly sick, and a son who was just trying to keep the good name of their family alive and well while his dad just squanders it. But the thing about Signa is that she is surrounded by death. So she has a connection to death that not many people have. And Signa is able to speak with the late wife and mother of this family. The mother is telling Signa that the daughter isn't deathly ill. She has been poisoned, and she is still being poisoned to this day. So then you have a mystery that comes into play of who is poisoning the daughter, and Signa is trying to, you know, kind of figure out what the heck is happening at this house. And obviously there's going to be a little bit of romance involved. There's a certain stable boy, and it's just a lot of fun. I actually loved this book. I fell in love with it as soon as I read it. I cannot wait to pick up the rest of the series. So the first book that I have on my spring TBR that I really want to read this year is Castle in the Clouds by Kerstin Gier. I found this randomly. I wasn't even looking for it. I have never heard of it before, but I found it in McKay's when I went, which is a used bookstore, and I don't even remember how much it was, but this is a really good like condition hardcover book, and this is supposed to be really good. I think Liv mentioned that Lexi from Alexandra Rosalind liked this book, and so that automatically made me want to pick it up. I mean, you have this beautiful castle, this maid, this little cat, I love it, and then the inside is pink and floral and just beautiful. And it's just like this light periwinkle color that I love on the regular hardcover. This one sounds super cozy, and basically we are following Sophie right here, our maid, and she is an intern at this European hotel, castle in the sky, or in the clouds as they call it, and she has her work cut out for her. She has a lot to do. There are like handsome newcomers coming in, there are mischievous kids, there are strangers who are trying to be somebody who they're not, and she just kind of gets thrown into the mix of all of this that's happening. There's not really a lot to go off of in the synopsis of what happens. It mentions that this is thrilling, it's humorous, and it's also romantic. So I love all of those things, and I cannot wait to see what this book has in store for me. The next book that I recommend is one that I just read this year. So far, out of 26 or 27 books, this has been my favorite one that I've read, and it's going to be so difficult to beat. And that is The House in the Cerulean Sea by T.J. Klune. I absolutely love this book. It's literally probably one of my favorite of all time. Somebody describes it as 1984 meets The Umbrella Academy with a pinch of Douglas Adams thrown in. And I would agree. I would agree to a certain extent. It is so good. If you are a cozy fantasy person, if you like found family tropes, if you just want to laugh and cry and be mad but be happy at the same time, you want to pick up this book. This one has been out for a while now, so a lot of people have probably already picked this up, but if you haven't, I'm telling you, now is the time to do it. So we're following our main character Linus, who is in charge of magical youths. He works at this place called Department in Charge of the Magical Youth. And he is summoned by this extremely upper management that is in charge of everything. So they send him out to this island where there are 7 kids who are considered dangerous to the world. And so they've kind of put them on this island. They don't really have any records of them. And they just send him there to get to know more information about who is on this island, who is taking care of these kids. They know who was taking care of them, but they don't have a lot of information on him. His name is Arthur, and they don't know a lot about the kid. But you have so many unique children and characters in this book. You fall in love with every single one of them. You cannot help but to fall in love with them. And this book is actually getting a sequel that comes out later this year, and I am super stoked about it. And that will probably be the only book that could possibly beat this one in my favorites of the year. All I know is that you need to read this little quirky and charming book, and let me know if it's even possible for you to not love every single character in it. I love fantasy, we all know this, and this is a particular YA fantasy. I have read one book from this author before, but I haven't read anything recently of hers, so I'm very excited to actually dive into this. I saw this book going wild on TikTok, and I was like, you know, I don't really trust BookTok all that much when it comes to certain books, but the reactions that this book is getting on TikTok, I was like, I have to pick it up and see for myself. So we're going to give it a try. And that is This Woven Kingdom by Tahereh Mafi. This one says, to all of the world, Eliza is a disposable servant, not the long-lost heir to an ancient Jinn kingdom forced to hide in plain sight. The Crown Prince Cameron has heard the prophecies foretelling the death of his king, but he could never have imagined that the servant girl he can't put out of his mind would one day uproot his kingdom and the world. This Woven Kingdom is a story of clashing empires, forbidden romance, and a long-forgotten queen who must claw her way through darkness and reclaim her throne, rebuild her kingdom, and save her people from the half-lives they've been forced to live. This book cover just kind of screams spring, summer to me, so I really feel like I'm going to get into this one. I'm just looking for a fantasy, a young adult fantasy that is going to pull my attention and like literally take over my life. I feel like it's been a while since I've read a young adult fantasy that I became so like obsessed with. So besides Throne of Glass, obviously, we already knew that was going to be one, but I'm excited to see if this is a new series that I become obsessed with if I make it my personality. So I will definitely be getting to this one this spring. I feel like this is one a lot of people have recommended. I feel like Ashley Poston is a little slept on, but thankfully, because of BookTok and Bookstagram and BookTube, she has kind of blossomed, and I'm super excited about that. I think a lot of people have realized that her books are a lot more than just romance. They are about grief. They are about deeper meanings and deeper stories. So I just had to include some on my list. So I highly recommend that you get to The Dead Romantics by her. This was her, I think, debut adult novel, and it did not disappoint in the slightest. Obviously the cover gives you spring vibes with the flowers and just the yellow and the pink. It's just gorgeous. But we're following Florence, whose family grew up in a mortuary. Her parents, her dad owned the mortuary, and her mom and her sister and brother lived there, and her dad ends up dying, and she is just kind of overcome with grief, and she doesn't know how to handle it. Her and her dad share a special bond because they are able to see ghosts. And what kind of makes it funny is that Florence is a ghostwriter for a very popular romance author, and I just thought that was hilarious because ghost and ghostwriter, you know. But Florence meets this new editor of hers who basically like trashes the novel that she's written without knowing that she wrote it, and she just hates him, and she's mad, and she's like doesn't know how to feel because she also finds him attractive. But then he gets hit by a car and he turns up as a ghost. Florence is kind of thrown into her hometown where she doesn't really like to be because everybody thought she was a weirdo for being able to see ghosts, and she is just trying to see her dad's ghost, but she keeps seeing her editor, and she is very confused. She didn't know her editor was going to die, and she starts having these confusing feelings because she is kind of falling in love with ghosts. So I actually really enjoyed the paranormal aspect of this book. I thought it was going to be a little bit weird. I was a little concerned if I was going to start having a thing for ghosts, but just stick to the end and see what happens. This is one that Ashley Poston came out with last year, and I did not get to it in time. And she also has another one coming out as well this year. They're not connected. You can read them separately, but I do think some of the other characters will be making appearances in the books. But I heard so many good things about this book, and I don't even know why I didn't pick it up yet. But it will be done. It will be done these next few months. And that is The 7-Year Slip by Ashley Poston. Is this cover not just gorgeous? The yellows and the little leaves, like, yes, I don't even know if this takes place in spring, but that's the vibe I'm getting with this book. So our main character is Clementine, and she is a book publicist, and she has always had these big dreams, but she has decided to start living on the safe side of life after losing her aunt, who she was really close to. And she's just kind of keeping her head buried in work and being serious about life and not really having any fun like she should be at her age. So she moves in to her late aunt's apartment, and when she moves in, she just sees a random man just standing in her apartment. And do we know who he is? No. Does she leave? Probably not. But she thinks that, you know, she's like, this is a guy that I could potentially fall for, and this is the kind of guy I would fall for before all the stuff with her aunt happened. For some weird reason, in her aunt's apartment, there is this kind of multiverse or like portal into another, not really another multiverse, but into the past and future. So the guy that Clementine sees in her apartment is actually living 7 years in the past, and Clementine is living 7 years in the future. So their time is a little wacky. I don't know how confusing that's going to be. I'm hoping it's not that confusing. Again, I'm very into the multiverse, portal magic, like different things like that. So hopefully it won't be too much, but I know that this has, again, more deeper meanings and not just focusing on the romance aspects of the book. This one I read last year and absolutely loved it, and that was Lightfall by Tim Probert. This is the first book in a graphic novel series. It's middle grade, and the second one is out, and the third one will be out very soon, so I highly suggest you get to it. The artwork in this is absolutely stunning. I hope that you can see it well. It's just beautiful, and the colors give me such spring summer vibes. And it's just so cute. It says, deep in the heart of Urpa stands the Salty Pigs, Tonics and Tinctures, home of the wise pig wizard and his adopted granddaughter Bee. As keepers of the endless flame, they live a quiet and peaceful life, crafting medicines and potions for the people of their once prosperous world. All that changes when Bee meets Cad, a member of the Galdurians, a race thought to be long extinct. Cad believes that if anyone can help him find his missing people, it's the Pig Wizard. But when the two arrive home, the Pig Wizard is nowhere to be found. Fearing for the Pig Wizard's safety, Bee and Cad set out across Urpa to find him, while danger fights its way out of the shadows and into the light. Can this reluctant duo get their act together in time to save the world, or has Urpa truly seen its last sunrise? It's so beautiful. I love the friendship. I love the just finding the found family aspect yet again. I am a sucker for found family, and I feel like you get that with being Cad in this series, and I can't wait to see what they get up to in the next one. So one that I cannot wait to get to, because my friend Rachel over at the Bestie Book Sleep absolutely loves this book, and I think it's a duology because the second one is out. I don't think there's going to be any more, but I'm not 100% sure, so do not quote me on that. But that is This Vicious Grace by Emily Thiede. And it says, her gift can save or it can kill. Look at this cover though. Ignore the sticker residue that I could not get off. But it's just absolutely gorgeous and gives me those spring vibes, again, that I'm looking for in my covers and books this time of year. So Elisa is given a gift from the gods. She is able to help people find love. She is able to also help people die. All it says in the beginning is 3 weddings, 3 funerals. Elisa's gift from the gods is supposed to magnify a partner's magic, not kill every suitor she touches. So she gets married and then they die. She gets married and they die. And she thinks she's supposed to be able to break this curse at some point. So she is trying to find a suitor for her, but her home is under the threat of being destroyed by these demons if she does not achieve this goal. And her kingdom and soldiers start rising against her and believing that the only way that they can save their kingdom from being destroyed is if they go after Elisa herself. So Elisa meets this boy named Dante, who is kind of an outcast in her kingdom, and he is hired to become her bodyguard and protector and just kill anybody that gets in their way. But again, stuff starts turning up about Dante that Elisa does not know about, and he could either be the key to saving her or destroying her. I love it. It sounds enemies to lovers. It sounds very magical and just like something I've never heard of before. So this one is a very high priority. The next book I'm going to recommend that I read a while ago, I mean like 2019, 2018, don't know when. I don't even know when this book actually came out. This book has a little bit of controversy attached to it because a lot of people really like it and a lot of people really hate it. There's not really an in-between. But I highly recommend that you read Wilder Girls by Rory Power. This book was so good. If you've ever watched the movie Annihilation or read the book by Jeff Vandermeer, I personally love the movie. I think it's one of the best kind of sci-fi horror thriller movies that I've seen, and I didn't love the book as much as I liked the movie. And this book gave me what I felt like I was missing from the book Annihilation. And it's kind of funny because he does blurb it saying that it's so sharp and packs so much emotion in such wise ways. He says, I'm convinced we're about to witness the emergence of a major new literary star. And to me, she is. Rory Power has such a good way of writing. I immediately fall in love with, again, her setting, her characters, and just everything about how she writes. It kind of feels like intellectual in a way, but to the point where you can understand it, if that makes sense. So this one says, it's been 18 months since the Raxter School for Girls was put under quarantine, since the talks hit and pulled Hetty's life out from under her. It started slow. First the teachers died one by one, then it began to infect the students, turning their bodies strange and foreign. Now cut off from the rest of the world and left to fend for themselves on their island home, the girls don't dare wander outside the school's fence, where the tox has made the woods wild and dangerous. They wait for the cure they were promised as the tox seeps into everything. But when Bayek goes missing, Hedge will do anything to find her, even if it means breaking quarantine and braving the horrors that lie beyond the fence. And when she does, Hedge learns that there's more to their story, to their life at Raxter, than she could have ever thought true. Like I said, just those amazing elements of like body horror, sci-fi horror. You also get like apocalyptic horror, but the friendship aspect and the resilience of women in this book, and it even mentions there are elements of gore, mystery, war, and love. So you just get everything in this book, and I just absolutely love it. This one is from an author that I have not read before, but I am super excited to read this one, and this is just giving me all the spring feelings, and that is The Hedgewitch of Foxhall by Anna Bright. I mean, you get a dragon, a princess, this guy, and some flowers down here. I really don't know who that guy is. Maybe a prince. I think she may be a witch, actually. So erase everything I just said. I'm also probably going to get their names wrong, but I will figure that out when I listen to the audiobook, so just stick with me. It says, a prince who hates magic, a prince who has spent his life hiding from it, a witch who was determined to protect it. Magic is fading from Wales, choked off by King Offa's Dyke, the enemy earthwork that spans the entire border. Even the dragons have disappeared, and now an attack is imminent. Prince Taliesin would love to watch magic die. Prince Daffyd fears it and the throne, but when their father promises the crown to whichever son can destroy the Dyke and restore magic to Wales, the brothers are forced into an uneasy rivalry. Fionn works Hedgewitch magic for poor folk, not princes. Unlike the power-hungry Foxhall coven, she uses only what nature can spare. But when the coven's greed costs Fionn everything, she will need power beyond her wildest dreams to get back what she's lost.
Say you'll remember me, sitting in a nice dress, staring at the sunset, babe.
Had to get that Taylor moment out. So when Prince Taliesin arrives, begrudgingly seeking a witch's aid, Fionn agrees to help him, even if it means walking from one end of Wales to the other with the most useless peacock she's ever clapped eyes on. Does she mean the prince? Or an actual peacock? Even if it means striking a bargain with Daffyd behind Tal's back. The fate of Wales depends on their quest, and so might the fate of Fionn's heart. Again, I probably butched the names in this book, but it kind of sounds like a cozy fantasy, and we all know how those are right up my alley, so I cannot wait. But those are all just some of the books that I want to get to this spring. I have put out pictures on my Instagram of books that I'm looking forward to reading this spring, and I'm also going to be updating the books that I am reading or that I have read this spring as recommendations. So go check those out if you want to see more. But thank you so much for watching. I hope that you have found some recommendations on this list, or maybe have seen some that you've read and you agree. But if you made it to the end of this video, leave any flower emoji that you want down in the comments below, and let me know if you've read any of these books and what you thought of them. And also let me know if you have any recommendations based off of mine that you think I would like to read this spring and add to my list, or any that you are looking forward to reading yourself. Again, thank you so much for sticking around, and I will see you guys in my next video.